So I put a good deal of time of adding HTML to my document, and before I move any deeper into this, I want to do something called code validation. That's where I essentially check my document to make sure that all my HTML code is in order and proper. The purpose of this is clean code leads to consistent results. A lot of times students struggle with why certain CSS styles or concepts, techniques aren't working the way they should be, and then I'll run a validation on their document, and there's errors in their code. And once you fix the errors in your HTML code, you can realize that all these CSS attributes and techniques you implemented all of a sudden work properly. The only issue was it was not working on your code. It's kind of the idea of the foundation of a house. You need a good foundation of the house to build everything else on top of that. So you can't worry about you can't worry about the guy coming to install the hardwood in your floors and say, well, why isn't the floor straight? And you're blaming the guy who put the hardwood in, when essentially he's building the floor on a crooked foundation. I hope that makes sense. But let's show exactly how that's going to go in our code. Now, if you look down at the properties pane over here, one of the options you have is this W3C validation. And next to it, if you have your document open, here we go. This little green play button has the option to validate current documents. I'm going to click that. And let's see what this dialog box says. Dreamweaver will now send your document to the W3C service for validation. I'll show you what that is in a minute, but I'm just going to hit OK. And let me hit don't show this dialog again. And let's see, down here I have the results, and look what I have here. No errors were found. Yay. So that is a good thing. Cool. So since no errors were found, I feel pretty confident to upload my document online. So I'm going to go up to here and put right in this little up and down file management button. Another dialog box is going to appear. It says put dependent files. This means any files that may be linked to this document that have also changed should be uploaded with it. For example, if we added an image and it's stored an image in the document folder, and we go to put this file up, it's going to say, well, hey, I'm going to put this file up, but I also need to put the image file you have linked in here. So I'm going to click yes. Now, I'm not going to just go ahead and click yes. There's that other, I accidentally clicked it before I wanted to, but you see that there's another little checkbox that'll allow you to not display that dialog box again. I actually like seeing that box because sometimes, okay, look, I'm already waiting a while here for this one file to be uploaded. Sometimes it'll drive me bad if it tries to re-upload an image file every time, and I necessarily don't want it to. So I prefer to either say yes or no to the dependent files every time, and I think it'd be worth your while to do the same thing. So let's see, I'm going to open up Firefox, and I uploaded this file to my 000 web host, which is that dragos19.site90 URL. So I'm going to start typing that, and here we go. Okay, perfect. Now look at what I have over here. Here's my document just as it was over here. Now let's talk about validation again. When I validated this document, I validated what it's like locally on my computer. But there's also a way to validate URLs, any kind of URL online, with the W3C Validator. So I'm going to go to Google and do W3C Validator. And I should find a link right here. It says the W3C Markup Validation Service. It's validator.w3.org. So this is the validation service that Dreamweaver referred to before, but here's the live one. So let me go back to my live page, and I'm going to copy the URL that it's at, and I'm going to paste it right there in its address box. And now we know that this thing has no problem, so let's just verify that. Or at least, I was going to say, at least we think we know that it has no problems. But wait a second. The same validator that said our document was okay here is now throwing 3 errors and 1 warning. And now if we look down the way, you see something about some JavaScript and hosting 24. You don't see any analytics. This isn't any code that we actually have on our own page. So, what's going on over here? Well, this is a false positive, if you will. It's actually not false positive. It is an error, but it's not something that's actually our fault. If you look at the code, everything is the same in our code, except down at the bottom, all of a sudden you see it says something about 000 web host analytics code. Well, this is the code that it put in on the fly. Their servers put this code in that is basically a tracking code. It tracks the traffic going to your site. It wants to know where you're getting traffic from, how much of it, all that stuff. Some of you may be thinking, well, I don't like them doing that. What can I tell you? If this is free, you're using their free service, this is the deal. Whether or not you read the terms of service, they said that they want to be able to track your visitors for their own info. If you do get like a paid service, they're not going to be doing this to you. More likely than not, they're not going to be doing that to you. And I figure that if you are going to be going with the paid service and they want to do that, you probably should look elsewhere. But the point of the story is just because your page looks good and validates locally on your computer, you don't know what could happen when you actually upload it and how it changes. So ultimately, the real gauge you have of what your site's going to look like is what it's going to look like live online through the link through a real web browser. Sometimes I've had students say, well, my site looks good in Dreamweaver, but it looks bad in Firefox when I look at it. I go, well, then your site just looks bad. It's not that it looks good in Dreamweaver, because unless a visitor is going to visit your site through Dreamweaver, it really doesn't matter, right? Because Dreamweaver has its own little rendering way to do it. And the other thing is, don't assume that what you upload is going to be exactly what it is going to be unaltered by the time you view it, unless you have a paid web host. So these are some things you need to consider when testing your pages.